Alrighty, guys, let us talk about episode 5 from season 2 of the DCU show Peacemaker. This is going to be, as always, a full spoiler discussion for season 2, episode 5 of Peacemaker, and we're at a turning point. We are at a turning point. We'll kind of discuss what that means in just a second. But I think this is the last of the episodes. I'm hoping that we're just kind of floating along, and we'll talk about why that might be the case. But this is, again, I've just been vamping for a couple seconds. Full spoiler discussion. If you have not seen the episode, make sure to save this segment, save the podcast, save the video for another time, and come back once you have seen it. And otherwise, let us dive into it. James Gunn has been doing that thing. And I've said it before. I kind of personally hate when people say this. The directors or actors or whatever, where they go, oh, this episode is really when the show kicks into gear, or it's really this episode where things get crazy, etc., etc. And, I'm not saying that that's not true, right? But I feel like it would have been, and I've read Game of Thrones before actually seeing the show, so it's a little bit of a different story, I guess, for Game of Thrones, because it was based on a book. But let's just say, before the Red Wedding episode in Game of Thrones, all the directors were like, oh, just wait until whatever episode it was in season 3 or season 4. Just wait for this episode. This is when it gets crazy, because all of a sudden the entire show just revolves, or the anticipation around the show just revolves around that one episode. And James Gunn has just been blatantly doing that thing where he's like, well, the first 5 episodes are one show, but then episodes 6, 7, and 8 are crazy. And I'm like, yeah, but I'd like to have just seen that for myself and just made that discovery myself. So anyways, all that to say, we have now finished those first 5 episodes. And I was wondering, okay, so in the back of my head, thinking at the end of this episode, was there going to be something crazy? Was there going to be this huge pivot point moment in episode 5 where you're like, oh, wow, what a crazy, was Robert Pattinson's Batman going to show up out of that door? I didn't think these things were going to happen, but in the back of your head, you just kind of have to wonder because of all these different things that people have been talking about. And episode 5 was, was an episode of Peacemaker. And now I'm left waiting. I watched the preview for episode 6 because normally I don't do that. I don't normally watch the previews for next episode because I'm like, I'll just wait a week and watch the episode in full. But I'm like, maybe in this week's preview, they're going to tease something crazy happening. And, I would have read about it anyway, so might as well just check it out here. And no, the teaser for next episode, it's fairly standard. So anyways, all that to say, that was really framing my mind, my perspective around this episode, because honestly, this episode was good. It was fine. But I feel like I came to a realization about season 2 of Peacemaker as I was watching this particular episode. And again, James Gunn has said, episodes 6, 7, and 8 are going to change the way you see the show, and it's going to be crazy, and it's going to be different. So we'll see. But I feel like season 2 of Peacemaker is basically season 1. It has all of the core DNA, right? The humor, the action, the violence, the the heart in certain places, and the writing, the comedic timing, and everything. And it has all of those things. I think it's just a sloppier version of it. I think these first 5 episodes of Peacemaker are fine. They're totally fine. But I feel like if you're gonna just say, okay, now the show is gonna pivot to something completely crazier, okay, maybe. But still, I just think that in the meantime, I would have liked to have seen episodes 1 through 5 be something really incredible in the meantime. And not to say that they're bad episodes, I just think that they're fine. They're good. And maybe my expectations were too high. But look, I mean, in this episode, it's what happens. I mean, what we've been leading to thus far. Argus is going after Peacemaker. Rick Flag Sr. kind of goes after or starts beating up Peacemaker. And that's something that you knew was going to happen in this show. He apparently, it seems like he was setting it up to kind of make it look like he really was trying to kill Peacemaker in that scene, but then he was going after him to set him up. And that almost worked. It ended up not working because the door closed. I kind of, again, it's this idea, the hot potato thing of open the door, move the door, try to track the door, all that kind of stuff just keeps happening over and over again. And I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of dragging the show along with it. Also, Sacha Bordeaux, I feel like at one point many years ago, I knew she was a cyborg and I just totally forgot. So when that happened in the park, I was like, what in the world is going on? There are a lot of those moments, honestly. And I think it's just going to be part of James Gunn's DCU that you're just going to have to get on board with it if you're not a fan of the comics. Not that I'm not a fan. And when I say not a fan, I don't mean that I hate the comics. I mean that I just haven't read much of the comics. So I don't know much of the lore of DC or Marvel comics outside of what I hear on YouTube and what I hear from friends, right? And so Sacha Bordeaux being a cyborg all of a sudden, I was like, what? It's okay. great, sure, fine. And it's the same thing with Michael Rooker's character, Saint Wild, I think is his name. I keep forgetting what his name is. That entire Eagle subplot, the Prime Eagle stuff, I was sitting there and I was like, this is ridiculous. And honestly, not in the good way. I think that some of Vigilante's lines, for example, are ridiculous about his animals and stuff. And Tim Meadows' Agent Flurry's stuff about bird blindness, his whole thing about not being able to tell different birds apart. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's funny. It's ridiculous, but it's funny. The Prime Eagle stuff with Michael Rooker's character, I was just sitting there going, I don't, unless this pays off big time, which it doesn't look like it's going to at all. I was just sitting there going, this is ridiculous. It's taking me out of the show completely. Again, I think that some of the things in this show are really good in the season. Like, for example, the sort of complex nature between Harcourt and Chris. And while I think that it's the classic, it's a misunderstanding because Chris thinks that Amelia Amelia hates him and whatnot. She has, complicated feelings around it, right? Because she says on the park bench, she's like, no, that night on the boat didn't mean anything to me. Okay. That's probably true. I probably take her at face value, but she obviously didn't, she didn't beat up Chris because she hates him. She beats him up because she's trying to protect him, but he doesn't know that. So I enjoy that kind of stuff because it adds more layers of character depth. It still feels like Adebayo and Vigilante aren't really doing anything. Economos is just kind of there to be comic relief, and he's good at it. I don't know, Judo Master being the one to enter the dimensional rifts. I never found Judo Master to be an interesting character, even all the way back to season 1. Just never did. And I think that maybe the Rick Flag Sr. stuff is the most interesting in terms of antagonists, right? Because I feel like when James Gunn says episodes 6, 7, and 8 are going to really, be different and really turn it on and take it to a different level, I have to think that means that's when the quote-unquote real villains are going to be discovered, whether it's, I don't know, whether it's some multiversal variant or whether it really is White Dragon again being the Blue Dragon. I just think that there are so many things being thrown against the wall. Whereas in season 1, and I don't always want to just compare season 2 to season 1. I don't want to do that because it's not fair. I just want to compare these shows. I want to watch these shows and watch them on their own merits, right? But still, you have to just, it's the reference point because this is what James Gunn did previously. It's in the same storyline and all that. And season 1 just felt like it had focus, right? It was still ridiculous. Vigilante was still ridiculous. But, Chris's relationship with his dad, the White Dragon, and his relationship, to the others and getting to know them better, and the butterflies and all that, it just felt more streamlined, with I forget his name, but Chukwudi Iwuji's character, Mern, that he felt more interesting. So I feel like a lot of things are being thrown against the wall here, where at the end, I think it's emotional and it sort of makes sense from the perspective of Chris to be like, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm going to the other universe. And I think it was probably a very hard choice for him to make, but it's a really sad thing for him to say, I just have nothing left here in this universe, so I'm going to go into a universe where I see myself as being happy. Again, it's one of the ways that I think multiverse can be done pretty well. But, I feel like this is sort of where the show's been heading. It's just kind of been plodding along towards that point, and now I'm sitting here going, okay, well, James Gunn, you promised us crazy. What is that crazy going to look like? I have no idea. I'm enjoying the season. I am enjoying the season. I just kind of wish it was a little bit more, I think that it's been a little sloppy thus far, and we'll have to see how the show wraps up its last 3 episodes, because I also don't want this to be Whiplash, right? I don't want it to be where you watch the final 3 episodes and you go, oh, that's amazing, but it had nothing really to do with the first 5 episodes. So we will see where this show is going to go from here. Guys, what did you think of Season 2, Episode 5 of Peacemaker? Supposedly the next 3 episodes are going to be very different, and so we'll stay tuned for that. That is next week. We will talk about Episode 6. Let me know what you thought about Episode 5 in the comments, though, down below.